Hello everyone, my name is Rizky Simon Herwawan and I am a student of English Education Study Program. And in this video, I would like to present about the science and theory of language development. But before I explain about the material, I'm going to explain about the words science and theory of the topic. Theory refers to descriptive statements or principles devised to explain a group of facts or phenomena. So from theory, scientists produce general knowledge of language development, while science is the process of generating and testing theories and can be considered the final court of appeal for the viability of scientific hypothesis or conjecture. So in science activity, scientists test a certain teaching method or teaching strategy that form based on the language development theory. Now I'm going to explain about the material, but in this video, in this presentation, I would explain this material by focusing on the four main questions, which the first one is who studies language development and why? The second question is what are some major approaches to study language development? The third question is what are some major language development theories? And the last one is how do language development theories influence practice? Without wasting much time, let's move on to the first question. Who studies language development and why? To answer the question, who studies language development? Then the answer is students and scientists from many disciplines, such as psychology, linguistics, psycholinguistics, education, sociology, and others. They all study language development. And to answer the question, why they study about language development? Then the answer is each discipline has different major focus and purpose with respect to language development. For example, in education discipline, researchers study language development by focusing on teaching and learning aspects, such as study about teaching and learning strategy. And in linguistics discipline, scientists study about language development by focusing on language aspects, such as language structure, syntax, phoneme, and other aspects of language. Some scientists conduct basic research in learning language development with the goal of generating and refining the existing knowledge base. In this basic research, scientists produce theory, while other scientists conduct applied research with the goal of testing approaches and practices that pertain to real-world setting. Applied research is a science activity when, for example, the scientists test a certain teaching methodology or teaching strategy to real classroom activity, and then they can identify that teaching strategy or methodology is good or bad to be implemented in the classroom. Now we'll move on to the second question. What are some major approaches to studying language development? Usually, scientists use approaches to study three aspects of language development. They are speech perception, language production, and language comprehension. Approaches to studying speech perception. Speech perception is about how humans recognize and respond to sounds. So usually, scientists use auditory stimuli approaches by using a computer software to measure babies' heart rate, kick rate, and visual response to auditory stimuli, and then carefully manipulate it into a series of fine-grained variants to determine how much auditory information an individual needs to hear to recognize the sound. So the point of these approaches is to measure or to find out how babies or infants recognize and respond to sounds. And approaches to studying language production. The approaches that the scientists usually use, such as observational or experimental approach, to examine children's language production. Usually, the scientists using an audio recording device to capture children's language for a certain period. For example, scientists use tape recorder to record a young boy conversation with his family during 2 years long. And from that recorded audio, the scientists can identify a language production of the boy, such as in what age the boy can produce certain sounds or certain skills of language. And approaches to studying language comprehension. Language comprehension is about human understanding about language. For infants, scientists generally use visual fixation or looking time approach on a stimulus as a measure of language comprehension. For example, scientists show the picture of a baby's mother and father and then see the response of the baby, that the baby can recognize the mother and father by showing the picture or not. And for older children, researchers can use pointing approach as a measure of language comprehension. For example, scientists show certain word or sentence, and also they show random pictures, and then they tell the child to match the picture with the sentence that they give. Okay, let's move to the third question. What are some major language development theories? Usually, language development theories are divided into two groups. The first group is nurture-inspired theories, or also called empiricist theories. And the second group is nature-inspired theories, or also called nativist theories. In nurture-inspired theories, they believe that humans gain all knowledge through experience, such as interactions with others and activities in the environment. And these are the examples of nurture-inspired theories. They are Skinner's behaviorist theories, Vygotsky social interactionist, Piaget's cognitive theory, and others. And in nature-inspired theories, they believe that knowledge is innate and genetically transmitted. So in nature-inspired theory, they believe that human has innate ability to learn language. And these are examples of nature-inspired theories, such as Fodor's modularity theories, universal grammar, bootstrapping theories, connectionist theories, and others. And I'm going to explain these theories one by one, starting for nurture-inspired theories. So nurture-inspired theories number one is Skinner's behaviorist theories. And this theory says that all learning is believed to be the result of operant conditioning. In operant conditioning, behaviors that are reinforced become strengthened, and behaviors that are punished become suppressed. So in this theory, emphasizes stimulus, reinforcement, respond, and then reward or punishment of the response. We can see the illustration below. The mother gives stimulus to the child by saying, "You want your bottle?" And then the mother says, "Bottle," while the mother show a bottle as a reinforcement. Then the child will respond to the mother by saying "ba," and then the mother will give the bottle as a reward. And every time the child wants the bottle, then the child will say "ba," then the mother will give the bottle to the child. So this become the child's behavior, and from that activity, the child will learn how to pronounce bottle by saying ba and then baba, bubble, and eventually the child can pronounce the word bottle correctly. And nurture-inspired theories number two is Vygotsky social interactionist theory. This theory says that humans learn language by social interaction. Social interaction between baby and other more capable persons such as parents, siblings, teacher, and others is a critical mechanism for children's language acquisition. For example, we can see at the illustration below, this is a picture of a social interaction between mother and child. They are discussing rhyming words in a storybook. Without help of the mother, the child cannot produce rhymes. For example, the mother might ask the child, "What rhymes with the cat in this chapter?" And then the child cannot respond to that question. But when the mother supports the child by saying three words that rhyme with the word cat, such as bat, fat, mat, then the child can produce rhyme by saying the word rat. So in this activity, the child learns language through social interaction. Nurture-inspired theories number three is Piaget's cognitive theory. In this theory, Piaget hypothesized a series of cognitive stages that children go through and emphasized that achievement is one stage must occur before a child can move on to the next stage. Certain cognitive achievements need to be in place for language achievements to emerge. So the point of this theory is when children develop their cognitive aspects, they also develop their language understanding at the same time. For example, we can see a conversation between Kevin and Pete here. Kevin says, "Watch me score a goal." Then Pete says, "The ground is squishy and muddy." And then Kevin says, "Okay, here goes. Are you watching?" And then Pete says, "My socks are getting wet." This conversation is not match each other. The response of Pete is not matched to what Kevin said. So it looks like they are focusing on themselves. This is what Piaget says children are egocentric. Egocentric means that children only view the world by their own perspectives. For this reason, each child produces a monologue but cannot give a good response or take turns with each other in a conversation. Children do not replace egocentric speech with true dialogue until they develop their cognitive ability to see others' perspectives. This supports the idea that cognitive development gives way to language achievements. And the next theories of nurture-inspired theories is intentionality model of language acquisition. This theory says that children's ability in language, emotional expression, cognition, social interaction, and play, they all develop together at the same time. For example, a young girl cannot assume that her mother will always know that she is thirsty and offer her a drink. Therefore, the girl must learn how to express this intention by using language. To acquire language, then children must be intentional. They must take strides to engage in social interaction, and they must put forth effort to construct linguistic representations for the ideas they want to express and then act to express this idea. The point of this theory is that humans learn language to tell their intention to other people. And nurture-inspired theories number 5 is competition model. In this competition model, multiple language forms compete with one another until the input strengthened in the correct representation and the child no longer produces an incorrect form. For example, children usually offer generalizing the past tense rule. They make irregular verb regular by use regular verb rule. For example, they say I goed instead of I went. They said I goed by putting the sound ed in the verb go. But eventually, with ongoing reliable exposures to an irregular form such as went, then the correct past tense representation of the word is strengthened and the incorrect form such as goed is dies out. Okay, and the last nurture-inspired theories is usage-based theory. This theory says that engaging in social interaction is undoubtedly a strong impetus for someone to learn a language. People learn language because they have reason to talk, and they learn language because of its use as a communication tool. So the point of this theory is that humans always want to share their thought, their opinion with other people, and for that reason, they have to learn language as its use of a communication tool. Okay, now we are moving to the second group of language development theories, which is nature-inspired theories. And nature-inspired theories number 1 is Fodor's modularity theory. In this theory, emphasizes the organization of the cognitive infrastructures of the brain as comprising a series of highly specified modules, including modules of various aspects of language processing. Language modules operate independently to perform dedicated function, yet can interact with one another at a higher level to produce combination of function. Because language modules operate independently, language development in different areas such as lexicon, syntax, and others is driven forward by different types of input. For more understanding, let's see illustration below. So in this theory believes that humans have innate ability to coordinate and make formation of sentence by modules that children receive from different types of input. For example, from this picture, several words young children hear from an environmental influence, such as the word eat, cake, they. It helps the child to shape lexicon or vocabulary collection, whereas innately given synthetic rule helps the child to shape sentence formation abilities. So from the child's innate ability, the child can create sentence from those words, such as the sentence, they eat cake. Okay, next, nature-inspired theories number 2 is universal grammar. According to universal grammar theory, children are born with a basic set of grammatical rules and categories that exist in all world languages, and the input they receive sets parameters or options to match those of their native language. In this universal grammar, the implicit knowledge children have about language is called linguistic competence, whereas the actual comprehension and production of language in specific situation is called linguistic performance. So for more understanding, we can see at the illustration below. Children has innate linguistic competence or innate ability, such as a basic set of grammatical rules that is consistent in our world languages. And when children receive input with a specific language, such as their native language, then the children will set parameters or limitate their general grammatical rules as an innate ability, and then match it with their native language. Then they will produce a set of grammatical rules in specific language, which is their native language, and they will use it. The next nature-inspired theories is bootstrapping theories. The bootstrap idiom is derived from the process of pulling your boots on with only assistance of the small loop sewn to the top back portion of the boot. If you can see at the picture, these small things is the bootstrap. This term means that the individuals accomplished a goal by personal effort or with minimal outside assistance or little help from others. For example, a father may ask his child, "Are you bringing me the remote control?" And the child might interpret the verb in the sentence to mean hold, carry, walk, or bring. In this example, an indirect object, me, and then a direct object, remote control, follow the word bring, which suggests that the bring is a verb of transfer, because transfer involves both the thing transferred, which is remote control, and the person to whom it is transferred, which is the word me. Therefore, the meaning of hold, carry, and walk are related to contention. This understanding process is carried out by the child's own efforts. And the last nature-inspired theories is connectionist theories. These theories attempt to visually approximate the inner working of the brain, and they model or simulate the mechanism responsible for language growth in relationship to input. Connectionist models are a simulation of how nodes and connections are organized. Nodes are simple processing units that can be linked to brain neurons, and nodes receive input from external sources through connection. The connection between nodes vary in strength depending on the connection weight. So the connection between some nodes could be strong and some nodes could be less strong. It depends on the input from external sources through connection. And now we're moving to the last question. How do language development theories influence practice? Language development theories contribute to practice in several areas. This area including instruction in English as a second language, prevention of language difficulties, intervention and remediation, and enrichment. In instruction in English as a second language, the teachers of English as a second language select particular instructional practices such as teaching method to implement it in their classroom by paying attention to the language learning theories as well as principles relevant to students' language development factors. And in prevention of language difficulties, teachers pay attention to various theories of children's language development and then teach children by focusing on efforts to prevent language difficulties that students may experience in the future. For example, teachers teach phoneme to the student as an effort to prevent student difficulties in reading activity in the future. And in intervention and remediation, teachers, by paying attention to the language development theories, they conduct teaching strategies that focus on helping students with language problems, such as conduct appropriate learning strategies to teach students with language disorders. And in enrichment, based on language development theory, teachers create learning strategies that can improve and enrich students' language skills. For example, teachers create learning strategies to teach students in preschool to enrich their knowledge about language before they join elementary school. Okay, I think that's all of my presentation today. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any question, please feel free to ask me in the comment below. Thank you.